Okay, I hope I'm audible to all my students who are attending this particular lecture for the Cambridge International AS Level Economics course. In this particular lecture, I'm going to start with the discussion of the first topic within the Cambridge International AS Economics. This is basic economic ideas and resource allocation. Okay, so I'm going to make all my students write a couple of lecture notes on this particular topic. It is a very easy and interesting topic, and it is the first module we cover within the Cambridge International AS Economics course. Okay, so think of this particular topic as just introduction to the economics we are going to cover at the AS level. Okay, so let's quickly start with the discussion of this particular lecture. I request all my students who are attending this particular lesson, you should start making some notes, because the notes I'm making you all right are going to be extremely helpful in summing up the lesson. Okay, so let's quickly start with the discussion of the concept of scarcity and opportunity cost and the fundamental economic problem, okay, in this particular lecture. So let's start with the discussion of this lecture. Recording in progress. So I'm just writing the main heading for completeness. We are looking at the Cambridge International Education AS Economics course. And in this particular lecture, we are going to start with the first topic within the AS Economics course. This is basic economic ideas. Basic economic ideas and resource allocation. Okay, basic economic ideas and resource allocation. This is the first module within the AS Economics course. Okay, and in this particular lecture, we are going to talk about the concept of fundamental economic problem. We're going to talk about scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost. Now, all these concepts students have even done at the IGCSE level in grade 9 and 10. So it's going to be a quick recap from whatever economic students have done at the IGCSE level. Okay, so let's write the heading: scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost. This is the subtopic within basic economic ideas and resource allocation. Scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost. I request students to make notes because they are going to be helpful in your revisions later. So let's talk about the fundamental economic problem. The fundamental economic problem. The fundamental economic problem. So we can write that the fundamental economic problem arises why? We all know that the economic problem simply arises because the human wants are unlimited, they never end. But the resources used to satisfy these wants are limited. Not only they are limited, but they are also scarce. Okay, so let's quickly write this. The fundamental economic problem arises because the resources are inputs used to produce goods and services. These are the inputs used to produce goods and services. These resources are scarce while people's wants are unlimited. Okay, so and why are wants unlimited? They are unlimited because it is always likely to be something else that a person always wants given their income. It means once my income goes up, I might want an expensive watch compared to a normal watch I'm wearing. Similarly, if my income levels go up, I might look for a bigger house. That means as your income goes up, your wants also change for the better. So I can write that wants are unlimited. Wants are unlimited because there is always likely to be something else that a person wants, whatever their income. Okay, so wants vary across your income levels also. So for example, I can just explain by saying that for an individual with low income levels, a want may be a car, whereas for a millionaire, a want may be a personal jet craft. So like I said in the beginning, wants kind of vary across income levels. Okay, so hoping students have understood this. So, but students should understand that wants and needs are two different things. So let me come to that. I can erase the initial portion off and I can continue with the explanation on the top. I hope students are also making notes along with me. When we talk about wants and needs, they are different. So I can write a note that it is important not to confuse wants and needs. It is important not to confuse wants and needs. Needs are something you need for survival. So needs are things like food, shelter, and clothing, which you need for survival. You can't live without them. These are food, shelter, and clothing that are needed for survival. Okay? Wants, you can still live without them. Even if your want is satisfied, you can still live without it. But needs have to be satisfied. Otherwise, you can't survive. So that means students should not think of wants and needs as the same thing. Okay? So hoping students have understood this. If I quickly sum up now, let me erase all this off now. So I can sum up that the fundamental economic problem means that the individuals or the firms, can also be the government, they all have to make choices. They all have to make choices due to the scarcity of resources. They all have to make choices because of the scarcity of resources. So economics is all about making a choice because resources are scarce. If the resources were not scarce, if they were unlimited, then there would not be any choice problem, and then probably there would be no need to study economics at the first place. The reason we study economics is because we learn how to make choices in the presence of scarce resources which have alternative uses. Okay, so I can further write that making a choice involves taking decisions on how to allocate scarce resources between scarce resources which have alternative uses. I can write. Okay, so hoping students have understood the summary. The fundamental economic problem is not only faced by individuals, the firms also face it, the governments also face it at all levels, at society level, at national level, at international level. All economies in the world face the fundamental economic problem. It's not that the fundamental economic problem is faced only by the underdeveloped countries or developing countries. Even developed nations also face the economic problem of choice because resources are scarce across all nations. And when we talk about resources, what comes to our mind? Resources are nothing but the factors of production, also called the inputs, like land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship skills. Now, these factors of production are all scarce, no matter whether you are living in India or you're living in US or you're living in UK or you're living in China, whether you are a capitalist economy or a socialist economy or a mixed economy, all economies in the world are going to face this economic problem of making a choice because all economies have resources which are scarce, which are limited, and which also have alternative uses. Okay, so I can draw a flow chart just to make it interesting. We talk about the factors of production, okay, also called inputs, which are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So these are nothing but land, labor, capital, and enterprise. We learned that these are scarce. These are scarce resources. Okay, which are used to produce goods and services. They are used to produce goods and services. Then we talk about needs and wants. And be it the individuals or the firms or the government, all of them have needs and wants. Okay, and they need to make a choice. So choice needs to be made. They need to make a choice regarding how many goods and services to produce, how many goods and services to consume. Firms decide, or firms and the government have to decide how many goods and services to produce. Individuals decide how much to consume. Goods and services produced and consumed. So this is just a flowchart summing up the concept we have covered so far. Okay, so hoping all students have understood this. Now let's talk about a very important concept in economics, which we call as the concept of opportunity cost. Now, because we have to make a choice ultimately, because resources are scarce and they have alternative uses, whatever choice we are going to make will have a cost, and that cost will be the value of what we are sacrificing to make that choice. That cost in economics is called the opportunity cost. So if I erase all this off, we can now write choice and opportunity cost. Choice and opportunity cost. Okay, so I can write that given the limited resources and unlimited wants, given the limited resources and unlimited wants, individuals, firms, and governments have to choose, they have to choose which wants to satisfy. They have to choose which wants to satisfy. Given the fact that resources are limited and the fact that our wants are unlimited, they never end, be it the individuals or the firms or the government, they have to choose which wants to satisfy. Obviously, the urgent wants need to be satisfied. Some wants can be delayed or postponed to the future, but some wants are very urgent and they need to be satisfied. So I can say that they have to make a choice. They have to make a choice between alternative wants. They have to make a choice between the alternative wants. And the true cost of any choice made, the true cost of any choice made between the alternatives, the true cost of any choice made between the alternatives is termed as the opportunity cost. Is termed as the opportunity cost. That means, students, when we are going to make a choice, we need to find out what is the true cost of making that choice. The cost of making that choice is nothing but what we are foregoing or what we are sacrificing. That is the opportunity cost. So I can write that therefore opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative foregone. It is the value of the next best alternative foregone. For example, let's take an example to understand this. Suppose you have $15 to spend, okay, on either buying video games or books. So I have $15 in my pocket and I can use that to, let's say, buy either video games or books. Okay, so you can either buy a video game that costs $15, or you can buy 2 books for $7.5 each. Now $15 in the pocket, either you can buy a video game or you can buy two books, because each book costs only $7.5. That means if I have $15 in my pocket and each book costs $7.5, I can buy two books. Now I have to choose, or you have to choose between these two alternatives. So if I erase the initial portion off, I can continue with this example on the top. I can write that you have to choose between these alternatives. You have to choose between these alternatives. Suppose you decide to buy a video game. Obviously, people like video games more than the books. There's a high probability of choosing a video game. Suppose you decide to buy the video game. The next best alternative foregone is books. When I'm going to buy a video game, what am I sacrificing? I'm sacrificing the books I could have bought. So the next best alternative is books. Therefore, the opportunity cost of buying one video game, is two books. Because if I'm spending $15 out of my pocket to buy this one video game, I could have bought these two books with those $15, but I'm sacrificing. To buy one video game, I'm sacrificing two books. Because money is also limited, money is scarce. No one has unlimited money. No one has unlimited budget. If I have $15 in my pocket, I had to make a choice between buying either one video game or buying two books. Now, if I buy one video game, the opportunity cost of that is two books, which I could not buy. So I can write a summary line that the opportunity cost shows you the real cost of your choices. It shows you the real cost of your choices. So hoping students have understood this. So I stop in this particular lecture. It was a short lecture and it was an introduction to the first module we cover in the AS Economics course. What we have covered, the concepts covered in this lecture are, we have talked about scarcity. We have talked about the fact that because resources are scarce, it leads to fundamental economic problems. Of making a choice. So scarcity of resources, scarcity plus unlimited wants. To put it more properly, scarce resources plus unlimited wants. Scarce resources plus unlimited wants leads to a fundamental economic problem. Fundamental economic problem means you have to make a choice. And making a choice leads to opportunity cost. This is what we have covered in this particular lesson. Now, in the next lesson, we are going to talk about the problems of what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Problems of what, how, and for whom to produce. Okay, this is what I plan to pick up from in the next lesson. So I stop in this lecture. I hope students have enjoyed this. Any doubts, you can unmute your mic and ask, or you can get in touch with me for doubts on call or WhatsApp, or you can mail me your doubts at divineschoolofeconomics@gmail.com. This is where I stop in this lecture.